Should you pay off your debt or invest for your retirement? This question gets asked ad nauseum. I will talk about my personal experience here today and show you some other expert opinion. And together, my intention is to hopefully form a community of folks who want to learn and build the best financial system together. Now, I am not a financial expert, at least not classically trained, but I have made some really impressive financial moves in my life. And I hope, my intention is this community helps us build what should be, I hope, the best financial literacy knowledge out there. I'm Grant Harting. I'm a licensed pharmacist in 4 states, and my co-host, Craig Roberson, is not available to be here today. He has a vacation in Colombia that I think he's at or something. I'm not really sure. Craig is also a pharmacist, and he has very similar but differing opinions to myself on finance, and that's why I want him to be here. So Craig, if you're watching this, we desperately need you on this channel. Additionally, Craig has a family. I do not. That changes finances a lot, and I want his opinion to be here for folks who do have a family. So when it comes to paying off debt or investing for the future, there's a lot of theories out there. On one end of the spectrum, we have Dave Ramsey, who says you should save $1,000 into your emergency fund, never see the inside of a restaurant unless you're eating there. Restaurant. Name the dog eBay and put it there. You need to work very hard, gazelle intense is what he says, using your paycheck to pay off your debt as quickly as possible. Another principle that he advocates for is what they call the debt snowball, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, where you list out your debts, the smallest monthly payment to the largest monthly payment, and you pay it in that order. Seeing the success of the first payment is motivating, then going to the second, et cetera, until you're completely debt-free. And during that time, you have absolutely no life, and you're not investing for retirement at all. A lot of people take issue with this. It's not optimized for a lot of people. They say, why can't I invest in my retirement? I'm getting, 7% return on my 401k, and my student loans are at 5% or something like that. 7 is greater than 5. I should invest in retirement. And Dave would say something to the effect of, this is not a math problem, it's a behavior problem. So what the goal here is to create some sort of middle ground that we can hopefully all mostly agree on. But there's actually someone a little bit more extreme than Dave, and he's my best friend in the entire world, Bradley on a budget. This hairy little fella will do things like wash his dishes in the shower to save money on water. Now, I think he is quite hyperbolic. I think he does it for the camera sometimes, but he is very extreme. On the other end of the spectrum, we have someone, I typically would say like Robert Kiyosaki. Is that how you say his name? He wrote the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which I have read. And although he's not like the monolith of spending money and accumulating debt, a lot of people associate him with the opposite of Dave Ramsey. So he would say things like debt is a tool. You can leverage your debt to build wealth. One thing that's really important to say is that Robert Kiyosaki would definitely say consumer debt is still bad and it's dumb. Credit card debt, no. No one thinks that that's good. If you don't have the money, you can't buy it. He advocates for things like investing in real estate. Taking on debt to do so helps build wealth. But there are a few things in the middle that don't really get talked about as much. There's something called I don't know the semantics of this because it depends on what source you look at, but something called like the debt avalanche or something like that. And this would be you organize your debt from the highest percentage to the lowest percentage of interest, and you attack it in that order. This makes mathematical sense, and a lot of people like that. What I did, and what I advocate for, is something called the debt tsunami. Again, I don't really know what the terms are because these aren't real terms. And what you would do here is organize your debt with the most emotional burden at the top, the highest priority, to the least emotional burden. Now, a lot of times that is by interest rate. But for example, if you had a loan to a family member or something like that, even though that's a relatively low interest rate, that's something you probably would want to get rid of first. Our buddy Brian from Clear Value Tax is somewhere in the middle. And this is what I like the best. And this is what I think our community can resonate around. Brian says, all debt is bad, but sometimes investing is better than paying off debt. An example of a video of his I watched, he had said, what if I got like a $5,000 bonus from work? If his mortgage interest was at 2% and he could get 8% on a Roth IRA, he would feel more comfortable putting in the Roth IRA. But if the mortgage was at 7%, then he would probably feel more comfortable paying off the mortgage. So it's not a simple math problem. And I think this is why a lot of people do not like Dave Ramsey, because he has these rules that are not bendable and malleable. Dave Ramsey's method will work for everyone across the world, but it's not the best for everyone. And that's where he gets a lot of criticism, I think. Step one is to assess your financial literacy. Are you comfortable doing something that requires choice, decision making, and emotion? Or do you want to just do what Dave Ramsey says, not think about it, knowing that you will get out of debt? It just might not be the most optimized route. This is a very tough decision to make. But what I did when I was paying off my student loans is exactly what I'll tell you now. I graduated with $290,000 in student loan debt. I don't remember what the interest rate was, but it was somewhere around 6% whenever you factor all things into it. And I did the debt tsunami. I had a loan from one of my family members that was very low interest, but I wanted that thing out of my life as quickly as possible. My health took a major toll. I didn't eat nearly as much. I lost a lot of weight. My relationships with my friends took a toll. They would want to go do things and I wouldn't go. And they're like, well, you're a pharmacist. You make so much money. And I didn't want to do those things. And it was a strain. I knew exactly when my paycheck hit my bank account and I would watch it hit in real time. And from that moment, I took everything above, I don't remember if my emergency fund was 1,000 or 2,000 or whatever it was, but everything above whatever my emergency fund that I felt comfortable with, I immediately put towards that debt. At the time, I was living in my mother's basement playing World of Warcraft for 18 hours a day, which was a good financial decision because I didn't spend any other money. Eventually, I did pay off that debt I owed a family member, and I was able to breathe so much better. As my total debt burden got down to a point that I felt a little bit comfortable with, then I started investing in my 401k. It was something minimal, like, I don't know, $200 or $300 a month or something like that. But the point here is I worked very, very hard to get my debt burden down to a point where I was able to invest and I felt comfortable doing that and the risk was mitigated. All in all, it took me 4.5 years, but I paid off the entire debt burden. And if you do the math on that, it doesn't really check out. It's because this happened during COVID whenever there was a student loan interest pause, and that was massive for me in my debt-free story. As I continued to pay off debt, I invested more and more into my 401k. And after it was all paid off, then I maxed out my 401k every year since. By the way, a lot of people don't know what maxing out your 401k means. That's why I'm making this channel. It doesn't mean contributing to get your company match. It means there is a federal limit that you can contribute to, and you can't contribute any more than that. I see people make that mistake quite often. So this is what I want us to sort of move forward with. And I want to hear your guys' opinion through every step of this process, because this is not my thing that I'm developing to push onto people. I want this community to help build this. So this is our core principle as of today, subject to change. All debt must be paid off immediately. The method you choose, whether it's the avalanche or the tsunami or whatever, does not matter. Once your total debt burden is around 10% of your monthly income after taxes, then you can engage in investment and also risky behavior, by the way. It doesn't have, I used a 401k in my case, but it could be, I don't know, a business that you're really excited about or something. And I picked the number 10% pretty arbitrarily, honestly. It's also subject to change. I'd love to hear what you guys think about that as well. Debt is beyond a math problem. It really is psychological. It's life-limiting. It's almost kind of like a chronic disease. And getting it cured, or at least mitigated, pounded down to a point where you feel comfortable, is incredibly important. I look back on my experience, and like I said, my relationships with people really struggled because I was so intense about paying off my debt. And I don't necessarily advocate that other people do that. There was a cost that wasn't financial associated with being that intense. And for some people, it's not worth it. But I think one thing is true. You do have to get some breathing room as quickly as possible. Factors like how much you like your career, how much you like your current job, all of those things matter. If you're safe in your career and you love it and you wake up every day smiling, ready to go to work, maybe you don't have to be as intense. But if you hate your job like I did as a pharmacist at Rite Aid, I wanted to get out of there as quickly as possible. So folks, stick around. Help us build this community. I want to hear all your opinions, and hopefully we'll get the famous Craig Roberson on the show at some point.